Good morning. Thank you all for joining us for the July Lunch and Learn. I'm Carol Battle, and I manage the Statewide Wellness Program. Today, we are going to explore creative ways to eat more fruits and vegetables. As a reminder, everyone who has registered for this event will receive a recording of today's presentation as well as the recipes. We will also send you a link to our webpage where we house all the past demos and where you will also find invitations to upcoming webinars. So be sure to check that out. Now let's welcome Katie Godin. She works for Lifestyle Medical Center and has been a registered dietitian for over 15 years. She focuses on helping individuals meet their health goals and improve their knowledge and relationship with food. Lifestyle Medical Center is an in-network nutrition counseling service. For those of you who are enrolled in the state health plan, virtual and in-person visits are covered at 100% for in-network providers. To find a dietitian near you, log into your state health plan portal, which is listed on this covered slide. During the presentation, please use the chat box if you have any questions at all. We'll be answering those along with Katie during the cooking demo. A special thank you to Kimberly Winters and Amy Tyndall from NC Flex who are helping on our panel today. We've saved a few minutes at the end of the event to conquer any questions that we aren't able to get to during the presentation. So without further ado, let's get started, Katie.
All right. Thank you, Carol. Hey, everybody. Happy to be back again today. And it's hard to believe it's already July, but it's hot and humid out there. So it definitely feels like it. So I'm excited about today's presentation. We're going to talk about fruits and vegetables. And I thought I'd throw in, of course, some creative ways to, of course, as you've heard the term, eat the rainbow. So let's get started. As far as services, Carol kind of touched upon those a little bit. I always like to kind of give a quick little run through of lifestyle and what they like to offer. We, of course, are going to be doing a lot of nutritional counseling. We do lots of other things other than just weight management. Of course, that's something that we can focus on if that's a desire, but we can also focus on things such as women's health, any sports nutrition goals, specific chronic disease counseling, and other things. Of course, sleep stress management is very important. That's something that we like to focus on alongside the nutrition counseling, as well as physical activity and movement. It is not a one-size-fits-all approach, and so we definitely like to tailor it towards your individual needs. And so I've been affiliated with Lifestyle for 4 years now, and they're a wonderful establishment, and we have lots of dietitians and other medical professionals that can assist you with your goals. So like Carol said, there's the virtual side of things covered over with your insurance, and then we are doing in-person visits as well. All right, so as far as today goes, like I said, we're talking about fruits and vegetables. I thought I'd just start off with some very basic information statistics, and I'm sure that this information is maybe not shocking to everyone, but it's always good to kind of understand the reality when it comes to how little consumption of fruits and vegetables that most Americans are eating these days. According to the newest research from the Center for Disease Control, only 12% of Americans meet their daily requirements for fruit intake, and then only 10% of Americans meet their daily requirements for vegetable intake. Just so that you understand, well, what is the daily requirements for fruits and vegetables? It's recommended that we get between 5 to 9 servings of fruits and veggies every single day. And I know that sometimes people will come into the office, or I'm chatting with someone and they're, overwhelmed by that number. And it can sound very overwhelming when you think about, wow, what does 5 to 9 servings even look like? That sounds like a lot. Maybe you're not eating any fruits and vegetables, right? So maybe we just start off with very small goals to get you to eating 1 to 2 servings a day and working your way up from there. But according to the 2020-2025 dietary guidelines, so they change these every so often, but the general serving size that we should be consuming of fruit is between 1.5 to 2 cups of fruit a day. So a serving of fruit is a half of a cup of some type of chopped up fruit or a small piece. So a small apple the size of a tennis ball. I know we can sometimes go out there into the grocery stores these days and see apples that are literally the size of softballs. And that's going to be at least 2 servings. So chopping that up, putting it in a half a cup cute little bowl. I like to do that sometimes for myself and for my kids, or grabbing that small banana, that small peach, that small pear, something along those lines. So that would be a serving. So 1.5 to 2 cups of fruit a day and around 2 to 3 cups of vegetables per day. So a serving of vegetables is a half of a cup cooked or 1 cup raw. Now, when you sit down and eat a salad for lunch, that could be anywhere to 2 to 3 servings of vegetables right there, depending on how much lettuce that you have in front of you with other salad vegetables into the mix. So it's not as hard as it sounds. And one thing that we like to do at Lifestyle is show you some templates, have you look at what a day's worth would really look like, put it into perspective. And again, the most important thing is understanding that you do not have to go from eating nothing to eating 9 servings a day in order to reap the health benefits. We can work up to that quantity. So how do we make eating fruits and vegetables easier and more enjoyable? So I've got some tips that we're going to run through here today. And then of course, I've got 2 really fun, yummy recipes that we are going to, make, and hopefully it'll inspire you guys to go home and add in some fruits and vegetables in places that you've not even thought to do so before. And of course, maybe try some of these recipes out too. Okay, tip number 1, start your day off with them. I'm a firm believer in the way that we start our day really shapes the way that the day ends up. So that goes for lots of different things. I mean, if we feel super rushed in the morning and we skip breakfast, then it's really going to throw off our entire day. I'm a firm believer in that. So I believe if we start our day off with some type of fruit, some type of vegetable, that is going to be the best recipe for success. So examples. Topping your oatmeal with berries. I know we're not really in oatmeal weather. Some people like oatmeal all year round. Some people are they like it in the cold weather, and I totally get that. Another way to do it would be spreading some mashed fresh berries, because those are nice and yummy right now in season. It's fun to go to your farmers markets and kind of check out some of the local farmers and go that route, or obviously grocery store. You can choose frozen if you want to plop them into smoothies. But smashing fresh berries on toast or even waffles is really yummy. I love doing that. Again, good for me, good for the kids. These are all tips for the entire family, because the kids need a little extra encouragement too. Baking them into things, putting them into muffins, topping your cereal with them, blending them into a smoothie. Yogurt parfaits are one of my favorite things to do this time of year, just because they're really simple, but they're nice and cold. This could be, of course, for breakfast, but it could also be a really easy snack or part of your lunch meal as well. So easy to do parfaits. It's just obviously you start with your yogurt base, which usually I encourage Greek yogurt because it has more protein to it. Also, a side note, if you are lactose intolerant or have trouble with a lot of dairy, Greek yogurt seems to be a little less harsh on your digestive system because it's been ultra strained and it has less lactose as a result. So some type of Greek yogurt with some fresh fruit, plop a little bit of nuts, some granola. While I'm thinking about it, I'm going to pull out my granola in the pantry and show you guys this, because it's absolutely delicious. Hold on one second. So this is the brand. It's so, so good. I only use a little bit. It is a little on the pricier side. Granola can tend to be that way. You can make your own if you want to. There's really simple recipes out there. But this has just a lot of yummy, yummy, healthy things in them. This is made with quinoa, amaranth, chia. So it's got a nice little bit of fiber, kind of lower on the sugar end of things, which is really nice for a granola. But another thing that I like to do to keep the granola lasting is don't use as much. Do not use a whole third of a cup, which is 130 calories. So that can kind of add up really fast. So what I like to do is do a sprinkle of the granola on the chunky fruit with a sprinkle of either pumpkin seeds. I love pumpkin seeds. They're just really high in magnesium, which is something that we're typically low in just naturally. We don't get enough magnesium in our diet. So sprinkling a little bit of those, or maybe some chopped up almonds or some walnuts to give it that extra crunch alongside the granola is a nice kind of pairing. So a little bit of an elaborate parfait discussion there, but just to kind of throw some examples there. And then of course, vegetables at breakfast. The best way to get those in is take those leftover veggies from the night before, no matter what you have, and plop them into those eggs in the morning and scramble them up really quick. So those are kind of some ways to get you started. All right, and let's get to that next tip. Perfect. So tip number 2, keep them readily available for snacking. So when you think about it, we should eat, I tell people, every 3 to 4 hours a day. So that means we could have up to 3 small snacks in a day, depending on hunger level, activity level, and all those things, which we would naturally tailor towards you to help you determine the best fit for, how many snacks to kind of adjust and have throughout the day. But that could be 3 servings of fruit or vegetables, or both at the same time if you want to, just with your snacks. And so if we have them cut up, ready to go, it makes it so much easier to grab them. I know that for myself. I know that for my kids. A vegetable tray, whether you put one together yourself or you pick one up from the grocery store because you just know that convenience is key for you, whatever you feel like is going to be helpful, have that ready to go. A lot of times, even for dinner, especially for snack and for quick dinners, I will plop that veggie tray into the middle of the table, and it's just easy for people to obviously eat off of, and there's no prep work in at all. So so having other chopped raw vegetables with any type of your favorite dips. We'll go over dips here in just a minute to kind of talk through those. And then keeping those fresh fruit cleaned, stored at eyes view. That's another big tip I've mentioned before, but it's just something that I think is really important. If we have it in front of us, we tend to grab it. That goes with anything that you're trying to eat more of, whether it's in the pantry or less of, for that matter, if you're keeping it kind of away from eyes view, like maybe lunch snacks and things like that that you have tucked away for the kids, but you don't want to get into them. Maybe we kind of tuck those in corners that we don't see. But when it comes to fruits and vegetables, keeping them kind of in see-through containers. So there's a picture here that shows you just a little snack box that's been made up that just has a little bit of protein, which is your cheese, and a little bit of rolled up turkey. And then you've got your fresh vegetables and a little bit of fruit. This could definitely be a snack. This is small. You could elaborate upon this and make it a lunch, of course, but sometimes I think if we have kind of a more in-depth snack here where you've got some protein, some fiber from those fruits and vegetables, it's going to tide you over a little bit longer. All right, so tip number 3, take a trip to the farmer's market. That makes eating fruits and vegetables way more fun, in my opinion. I went just the other day with my son, and I just kind of let him choose 3 vegetables that he wanted to eat. And so he had a lot of fun with that. He's 10, and so it can be a little boring at times to do kind of the shopping stuff with mom, but he had a blast kind of just walking around. It makes it a little bit more of an experience. And so for yourself, if you're trying to get the whole family involved, taking a trip on the weekend to the farmer's market is kind of a fun activity. Local grocery stores, of course, keep some local produce on hand as well. So that's another way to support local farmers also. And a container garden is a really fun way to kind of start your own, especially herbs. I've got some basil that I'm going to be using today that I've got in a pot. It's pretty, it's kind of fun to have around. It's easy to take care of. There's some things like that that you can kind of start simple to kind of make those veggies taste a little bit better. But yeah, taking a trip to the farmer's market, I think, is kind of a fun activity this time of year. All right, next tip. Using dips to jazz them up. I hate for people to come in and then tell me that vegetables just don't taste good, because it isn't true. We can make them taste delicious. And I'm not very picky when it comes to how you eat them. I mean, yes, maybe we talk through if the only way you like to eat them is kind of saturated in butter or fried, but in my opinion, there's many things that we can do to enhance the way that vegetables taste, to also get those nice health benefits, but feel like you're having fun at the same time. Some of my favorite dips I wanted to put on here, hummus, which is, there's so many options these days. And I mean, whatever flavor you like, whether it's to a bean-based hummus, or excuse me, a black bean-based hummus versus a chickpea-based hummus, roasted red pepper, if you're a garlic lover, if you can make your own at home and have fun with that if you like to cook. So hummus, of course, is one option. Guacamole is another top fave for me. I love vegetables dipped in guac. I usually will have some chips to go with it, but I always have fresh vegetables on the side too, just so that we're entering those into the mix as well. The same goes with guacamole. Make it at home, of course, which is my favorite thing to do, because I do feel it tastes so much better with fresh avocados. However, I also love getting single served containers for lunch boxes and things like that. Same for hummus, because they last really long and they're nice serving sizes, and they're really easy to pack for convenience. If you struggle with that, that's a nice tip. And if you're a Costco member or bulk store member like that, they usually have really good deals on the single serve containers of stuff like that. Tzatziki is another top favorite. So that's a cucumber yogurt based sauce that's typically paired with Greek cuisine and Mediterranean cuisine. So that goes really well with a veggie tray. Baba ganoush is another Mediterranean inspired dip, which is made from roasted eggplant. If you've not tried that before, it's actually very tasty and kind of mild. So that could be a fun way of getting an extra vegetable into your actual dip. It would be a veggie based dipped with vegetables, so extra bonus. And then, of course, you've got your just standard low-fat veggie dips or your Greek yogurt-based dips, which are, a nice go-to as well. Excuse me. Now, when it comes for fruit, you have a lot of fun options too. You can try, it's kind of circling back to hummus. They make dark chocolate hummus these days. I don't know if anyone has tried that. It's actually really good. My brain kind of has a hard time sometimes. I know that it's made with chickpeas, and so I'm like, this is kind of interesting, but I promise you it's really good. And then you can obviously make your own. There's a very simple algorithm here, basic recipe, just a cup of some type of plain yogurt, or you can do vanilla. Again, Greek yogurt is usually what I recommend. And then a little bit of honey, and then a little bit of just a splash of vanilla for some flavoring. There's other things you can add to this. Powdered peanut butter. I don't know if you guys have had that before, but that's another way of adding a little extra protein. And obviously that peanut butter flavor if you like that. So yeah, using dips is a great way to make it more fun. Okay, next tip, blend them up. I mentioned smoothies in the first slide, speaking about breakfast, but blending them up is a fantastic way to get them in. And especially if you struggle with taste, this is a great thing for children, but obviously a really good thing for any age. I know a lot of times people will come to me and say, oh, but I gotta bust out the blender and I've gotta clean it and it's such a hassle. And I do totally understand your concerns, very valid, especially if you don't give yourself enough time in the mornings. I suggest planning for them if you're going to make smoothies. One of my favorite things to do is make little freezer bags. Go ahead and take Ziploc bags when you go to the grocery store or the farmer's market and you've got all your fresh fruits and vegetables sitting out. Typically, I might throw some spinach, some bananas, some berries, mango. Peaches right now are so delicious. I had a strawberry peach banana yesterday. So good. So adding those already into freezer bags and tucking them away so that you only have to grab those out. You don't have to go to town on chopping fruit in the morning. It's already pre-done for you. You can obviously get frozen fruit too. That's another great way of utilizing that convenience factor. And so, yeah, I mean, very easy to whip up a smoothie really quickly if you've got stuff like that already planned. So I do think there's a planning aspect to it. And then for soups, I know this type of weather does not always scream hot soups, but for the winter time frame, soups are a nice way to pack in a lot of vegetables. So I usually say, of course, opting for your low sodium varieties if you're purchasing canned, or trying some simple recipes at home, which I've sent 2 links here to some really yummy soup recipes. One of my favorite soups to make in the winter is blended cauliflower soup, and it tastes very similar to potato. You could even add a little bit of potato too if you wanted to, but it's a great added twist to get in a little bit of extra non-starchy vegetables into that soup recipe. So, all right, guys. So next tip. Add them into your bread products or your starchy dishes. And so I'll explain what I mean here. Again, talked about that briefly for breakfast, adding them into muffins or zucchini breads or things of that nature. But anytime you're having, let's say, pasta, okay? Anytime I have a pasta dish, I throw vegetables in there. No matter what I'm making, if it's just traditional spaghetti or if it's just not a tomato-based sauce recipe, whatever it is, throwing in spinach, broccoli, zucchini, squash, whatever you can think of, piling some green beans on the bottom, whatever you want to do. There's no rule as to what vegetable you can put in your pasta. Any of them will go. It's just a great way of feeling like you're eating that pasta and then also getting in some chunky vegetables at the same time. A lot of times what people find is they don't need as much of the pasta, the noodle part, because they're getting so much fibrous vegetables that it kind of fills them up. They're also feeling really satisfied because they're not telling themselves they just have to eat zucchini noodles or spaghetti squash anytime they eat a pasta dish, which is a great thing to do if you like that kind of thing. But I think we all need a balance when it comes to stuff like this. And so another thing that I love to do, I know I mentioned berries mashed onto waffles, but I will spread peanut butter and then mash either strawberries or raspberries. That's kind of my go-to. So that's a really yummy breakfast. I love those Kodiak waffles. If you guys have not tried those, they're very good. They're made with a little extra protein to them, so they can keep you full a little bit longer than traditional Eggo waffle. So those are kind of some 2 really simple things that you can do to those bread or starchy products to add a fruit and a vegetable to them. All right, next tip. These are just some fun products that I wanted you guys to kind of see out there. There's so many, it was hard to kind of pick, but these are some things that I've used or recommended to people. I put the dark chocolate hummus on there. You guys, that bottom right, Veggies Made Great double chocolate muffin. I do not know if you guys have tried this brand before, but they are phenomenal. And if you're a Costco member, it's definitely the place to get them. But you can find them in most grocery stores these days. Target, I think, has a nice variety. You can't always find every flavor every time you go, which is a little frustrating, but this double chocolate muffin has routinely been a dessert for me at night because it is just so good, and it is made with zucchini and carrots, and it has a nice little added bonus of having those vegetables made. And there's a blueberry one that's awesome. And then they make other flavors too. So I highly recommend trying that out. These Terra root vegetable chips are really a go-to for me as well if I want something salty, but I also want to have some type of healthier chip alternative on hand. I will buy some of those. The veggie tots are great just if you have some picky eaters in the family and you want to try to add in a little bit of a twist on tater tots. And then the Dr. Prager's brand of veggie burgers are, in my opinion, the best tasting. I love to get those and swap that out for maybe a lunch one day or something like that, just to switch it up. All right, guys. So I think this is the last tip, and I love this tip because it just puts it in perspective again. We've talked about a lot of ways of getting those fruits and vegetables in the mix and how, like, some creative ideas, but this is just a general rule of thumb when you're trying to think, how much should I be eating? Think the half plate rule. And again, there's wiggle room with this. There's no right or wrong way to do any of this, but I think this is just a great visual to see half your plate, try to fill up with some vegetables, a quarter of your plate, filling that up with some protein, and then a quarter of your plate, filling that up with some starch. So again, vegetables can be, as you see here, there's a little bit of greens with a little bit of carrots. You can kind of swap that out and make it a really big salad for half your plate. You can do all cooked vegetables. You can do a mixture of things. So yeah, think that the next time you sit down to eat, how can I make half of my plate filled with vegetables at this next meal? All right, guys, I'm excited to feature these two recipes. I do not know if you guys have had anything similar to this before. Both of these recipes come from a blog and website that I really love called Clean Food Crush. The first thing that I'm going to make is the summer zucchini salad. So I love the idea of this for any type of, both of these for a backyard barbecue or a cookout. Tonight we were going to do something on the grill, so I'm going to be using these recipes to go along with that. And so there's the summer zucchini salad and then the watermelon feta salad, which is so delicious. I don't know if you guys have ever had a pairing like this before, but don't knock it until you try it. It's really, really a fun twist on watermelon. All right, guys, so let's get started. We are going to start off, like I said, with that summer zucchini salad. First thing I'm going to do is kind of get my, and I'll start angling the computer here so that you can see what I'm doing, but I'm just going to kind of get started over here with heating up a tablespoon of olive oil and kind of getting the pan ready for my garlic. This is what I'm going to start with. All right, so I'm going to just let that heat up for a second. And pardon me while I just pull up my recipe really quickly. So this recipe calls for about 6 medium squash or zucchini. You can do all zucchini if you prefer zucchini. I did a mixture because the colors are really pretty. I have, just to show you really quickly, I have most of it chopped up. Just as a time saver, I'm going to chop up one of these zucchinis right here just to show you how I do it. But I have about a half and half mix. I might have one extra zucchini there because I already had a couple of squash on hand, so I went ahead and got the rest zucchini. Let me angle this down. So I'm gonna, okay, I'm sure y'all can see that. Okay, so I'm gonna chop up my zucchini here. And the recipe asked for it to be in bite-sized pieces. So what I like to do is just kind of take a big stack of them so that I've got, you know, a nice amount of chopped vegetable right there. Just if you're not someone who enjoys chopping, it kind of goes by a little bit quicker. and then this little last one. Okay, so I've got a bunch of my squash and zucchini here. Absolutely yummy. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna move this out of the way, move this a little bit closer. Okay. So what I'm going to do is put some garlic in the pan. The first thing that this recipe calls for is sauteing 5 cloves of garlic. So it calls for a lot of garlic, which in my opinion is a yummy thing. I've got it already pre-minced in here. I've mentioned this before in my demos. I definitely prefer fresh garlic to the pre-minced. I just think it tastes better, but that is your call. There is nothing wrong with doing pre-mince to kind of save on time. So what I'm doing is just kind of sauteing that garlic up for about a minute. It doesn't take too long with that tablespoon of olive oil. All right, and let's just kind of want to make sure. Like my zucchini really fast.
Katie, while you're doing that, I have a question about where you got your knife.
Where I got my knife?
Yes.
They're Hinkle knives, so I've had them for a very long time. And so yeah, the brand is Hinkle. Maybe you guys have probably heard that brand before, but I've had these knives for years. And if there's one thing I think I've talked to my husband about, getting some new knives would be kind of a fun Christmas gift this year. But this is my favorite one. I feel like it's a good size, and I use it for just about everything. So pretty much. It's not serrated, but it's great for chopping. All right, guys, so I'm gonna add in all my zucchini right now, and then I'll angle this back down so you can see it. A lot of zucchini and squash. So something that I love about squash and zucchini is, there's a lot of health benefits to the two vegetables. They're a great source of potassium, B vitamins. They're loaded with fiber. If you're someone that's in need of blood sugar control and regulation, squash and zucchini is a great alternative or addition. Like I said, with pastas, adding in these types of vegetables to something that might typically make someone who's struggling, if they have diabetes or just blood sugar fluctuations in general. This can help slow down the digestion of those blood sugars. So that's a really positive thing about fruits and vegetables, is their fiber content. So the recipe wants us to saute these for about 4 to 5 minutes or so. So if there's any other questions, I can definitely take those right now if you guys have any further questions for me.
Sorry. What type of liquid do you recommend to add to smoothies to loosen them up if you're using fruit and Greek yogurt?
Yeah, so I typically recommend almond milk. I think almond milk is great, unsweetened almond milk, just because, again, if you are lactose intolerant, that's going to be a nice option for you because it's dairy-free. Almond milk is very low in carbohydrates, so if you're someone, again, that's struggling with blood sugar control or diabetes, or maybe you just don't want 100 calories of milk into your smoothie, that's a great way of getting in that that texture, but not necessarily adding in a lot of calories. So you can save your calories for other things like chia seeds or flax seeds or peanut butter or something like that. So I usually push towards almond milk, coconut milk, the unsweetened varieties of those.
Okay, good. Let's see, is it okay to use coconut oil or is olive oil better? What brand do you recommend?
I usually use olive oil when it comes to this, unless just because I like the nutrient profile of olive oil the most out of any oil, the extra virgin. It's going to be very high in monounsaturated fats, very low in saturated. Olive oil, the profile of it is going to improve our good cholesterol and work on lowering our bad cholesterol. So improving our HDL, lowering our LDL. Coconut oil, I think, has a time and a place, though. I love the flavor of coconut oil, and a lot of people do too. And so sometimes when I'm doing a healthier baked good or some type of treat with dark chocolate, it goes really good. So that's when I typically use coconut oil a lot. I don't really cook with it as much or saute and do those types of things as often. Now, there's certain times I do, but I would say olive oil is my most used oil in the house. And as far as which brand to get, I mean, there's so many different kinds. This particular one, I think my husband purchased, and I'm not sure where he caught this. I always like to look and make sure that it's got, some type of, okay, this is a product from Greece, making sure that there was some dispute over olive oil a long time ago. I'm sure you guys might have heard about that, where you weren't getting what you thought you were getting when it came down to olive oil. And so those are some things that I look for, is just, where it's from, and is it from Italy? Those are some things if you want to get really picky. Yeah. Costco has a really good one too, a bulk one, if you like bulk and use a lot of olive oil. So, all right, guys. So I'm going to just dip it back down here. So I've got my squash and zucchini kind of sauteing. Let's see, for 3 hours and distance, I'll think there's that. So what I'm going to do is set this aside for a minute, because really you don't cook it for very long. I'm just going to kind of get it off of the heat. And then we're going to regroup over here. We're going to make our dressing that goes with it. So let me adjust here for a second. So for the dressing that's going to go with this, we're going to do a tablespoon of olive oil. Okay, let me angle this back down so y'all see what I'm doing. Okay. Let's see, make sure you can see that, okay? All right, so I'm going to have a tablespoon of olive oil. So I'm just going to plop that in there. And then I'm going to do, let's see, some lemon juice. So I have a lemon, just a whole lemon chopped up here, and I'm just going to squeeze some fresh lemon juice into the bowl. So just the juice of 1 lemon. I tried to get all the seeds out, but 1 little seed got left. All right. All right, so right there, we've got a tablespoon of olive oil, and we've got the juice of 1 lemon. Then we're going to add in our parsley and our basil and a 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. So I have about a 1/2 cup right here. I'm just going to take about half of this Parmesan cheese and save the other half to go on top of the dish, which will make it look really pretty. I'm going to set that aside, and then I'm going to bring over my cutting board, and I'm going to chop up some fresh basil and parsley here. So it's calling for a tablespoon of each. So this is my basil plant over here. I don't know if you can see it. So here he is. It's just fun to have these around. Basil is a great herb to have this time of year, just for so many different things, but obviously it goes so well with tomatoes and pasta dishes and flavoring meats and stuff like that too on the side. It's just so good. So I'm going to get a bunch of fresh basil. kind of stack these leaves here. And then I'm going to just kind of chop it up really finely. Sure you can see that. Just kind of cut it up into some strips and then kind of bunch it together. It's a lot cheaper this way too, everybody, to get basil that's already chopped up. I mean, excuse me, that's growing like this, and to just keep it in a little pot in your kitchen. I'm going to measure that out just to make sure, but that should be, yeah, about a tablespoon. All right, so I got a tablespoon of basil. I'm just going to dump into the marinade there. And the other thing that it asks for is a tablespoon of parsley. So I'm just going to kind of tear off a little bit of parsley. I'm going to do the same thing. If you can try to get the stems out, that's great. Sometimes a little extra gets left in there, and that's okay. But I'm just going to kind of peel some of them off. All right. And then again, I'm just going to kind of put it in a little ball, and I'm just going to chop it up. All right, and again, just kind of measure out. And then I'm going to dump that in there. I'm going to whisk this up a little bit, just so that it's all kind of mixed together before I dump my zucchini in here and mix that all up. So it smells really good. I know you guys can't smell it, but just between the garlic and the basil and the Parmesan cheese, it's really, really a nice, yummy smell. Okay, so what we're going to do now is after we whisk that all together, we're going to add in a pint of chopped cherry tomatoes, which I, again, just to save on time, already chopped those up. So add those in. And then I'm going to add my zucchini in here. Right. And then I'm just going to mix this all up. Oh, it smells so good. And then at the end, if you decide, wow, that could have more basil, or I wished I had added more tomatoes, or, you know, whatever you want to do to kind of jazz it up a little bit, you can. I'm just trying to get it even so it kind of gets evenly coated. It smells so good. I'm losing a couple zucchinis here, but all right. So now what I'm going to do is just put it in a prettier bowl so you can see what it looks like. All right. Then we're going to take the rest of our Parmesan cheese and we're just going to kind of sprinkle it over it. And then maybe we take just a little bit of basil and we just kind of plop it on there because that's really pretty. All right, guys, super simple side, and it's beautiful. Lots of color, lots of nutrients. Goes going to be, you know, great with whatever meat, kebabs, fish, whatever you decide to pair with it. All right. So that is our first yummy vegetable side. Let me regroup here for a second and we will get started on the watermelon salad. Any questions while I'm cleaning up here for a second?
The presentation is beautiful.
Thank you. Yes.
We have quite a few questions about smoothies.
Yeah, go for it.
Some weight loss websites discourage fruit or certain fruits. Is there such a thing as too many fresh fruits?
So what I would say to that is, yes, there can be. I would say sticking to a couple of servings in a smoothie, and we talked about that at the beginning of the presentation. A cup would be about what I'd recommend, 1/2 to a cup of fruit, and that's when we can add in something like a protein powder. Sometimes people like to put that in. And next month, I think everyone's going to, I mean, hopefully be excited about the smoothies and protein shake demo, because I know I get a lot of questions about those. And so we'll definitely talk a little bit more about smoothies then too. But yes, I do think that sometimes it can be overdone. So especially when you go to places like Tropical Smoothie Cafe and places like that, like your chains, and you just get these ginormous smoothies that have juices in them and bukus of added sugars and all those things. So that's why I think it's really nice to make them at home. Berries are so great because they really add, in my opinion, a lot of sweetness without a lot of calories. Lots of fiber, so getting in that actual fruit is better. So I would say somewhere around a cup, and a few frozen banana slices go a long way. It really jazzes up the sweetness a little bit. So you don't need an entire banana. I would say half of a banana and a cup of strawberries. And that is a really good amount of fruit to pair in there with a little bit of protein powder, with your almond milk, and then maybe a scoop of protein powder. If you, did I already say that? I think I already said that. Anyway, so yes, that's a good question.
All right. And do you have any recipes, or maybe can share a recipe site for veggie juices using more vegetables and not as heavy on fruit?
As far as websites go, I mean, my go-tos, like I've mentioned before, Skinny Taste, Eating Well, this Clean Food Crush that I've gotten recipes for today. I'm not a very experienced veggie juicer, so I don't have a juicer at home. I don't do stuff like that. I usually, if I'm going to do a juice, I might just purchase one. If I'm being honest, I eat a lot more of my vegetables than I do drink them. That's just how I like it. But when it comes to smoothies, I'm always adding in a handful of spinach, large handful of spinach, because there's really no reason to not. So it's essentially tasteless. It doesn't have a lot, obviously it doesn't have a lot of calories, it just adds nutrients, and you can't taste it at all. And so I do that mostly. But that is something that what I can do is make a note of that, and I will research that a little bit and bring that to the next presentation so that that is talked about a little bit more at that particular time.
Okay, good. And is almond flour used the same as regular flour when making banana bread? Could that
I can't remember if it's a 1-to-1 ratio, but yes, you can definitely use almond flour for any baked product. You would just have to, of course, follow the recipe to see how much. I do not know that off the top of my head. But yes, I mean, it's one of my favorite things to utilize as a swap, just because I don't think it really sacrifices a lot on the taste department. And I really do think that if you're someone who's struggling with blood sugar control, or you're just trying to, eat a little bit less of the processed forms of carbs and sugar, that's a nice good swap.
And have you heard of or used maca powder? MACA to add to smoothies?
I have heard, I do not use that. So that's another, again, I think everyone is really going to be interested in it sounds like smoothies are a big hit. So what I'll do is I will make a note of that as well. Maca powder, MACA.
Yeah.
No, I have not used that in my smoothies.
Okay, I've never heard of it. So
No.
That's a good question.
I just want to be upfront though, when it comes to making smoothies and things like that. Let's think simplicity, because I think the less that we feel we have to go out and buy special, the more likely we are to do them. So there's lots of health benefits you can get just by having fruits and vegetables in your smoothie. Chia seeds or flax seeds are something that I like to add as well, which is something that keeps for a long time. It's pretty easy to use those in other ways too. And then of course, some type of protein powder. Just because if you're exercising and you're trying to get a little bit more bang for your buck out of this, if you're already making one anyway, it's nice to add in a little extra protein too.
Okay.
All right, guys, so just to kind of show you what I'm doing here, and then we will continue to talk through questions, because this shouldn't take long at all to make. I have got 6 cups of watermelon. So just to put it in perspective, it was about half of a watermelon, okay? I'm going to drain a little bit of this water off real quick. Okay. So we've got our watermelon, and then we are going to add an entire English cucumber, which I have right here. I never take the skin off my cucumber because it's just, especially an English cucumber, the skin on an English cucumber isn't as coarse, and it's just adding extra fiber. So keep it on there if you can. So 6 cups of watermelon, 1 English cucumber. Then we've got 6 ounces of feta cheese, which is basically an entire container. I'm going to feel this out for myself. I'm not a huge, I like feta. I don't love feta. I want the feta to be present in this because it's one of the, of course, the unique ingredients in it, but I'm just going to feel out what about half of it looks like. And then I'm going to kind of keep it there, which in my opinion is a decent amount. So about half of that container, not a full container. And then we're going to do a handful of chopped mint leaves. So I've got some mint right here, which is so good this time of year. Whether you're making some fun mocktails or some infused water recipes. Okay, so I'm going to add that mint directly to my bowl here. Let me adjust that a little bit. Then we're going to add in 1 lime. Let me find my lime. Here he is. Okay, so I've got a lime. It wants me to add in the zest and the juice. So if you're going to zest, if you really like the way lime is, zest first, then juice. So zesting, we're just taking a grater and we're just rubbing the skin of the lime until it's basically coming off. I'm just going to kind of go around the whole lime, zesting the skin. Okay. Then I'm going to take it, cut it, and just squeeze it in. Juice of that 1 lime. It does call for a little bit of salt and pepper. So I'm just going to do a little sprinkle of salt and a little sprinkle of pepper. And then we're going to mix this up.
Katie, I know this recipe would be served cold. What about the first recipe you did?
So
that cold or hot?
So that recipe does say that you can for you to cover and refrigerate. So yeah, it does kind of call for it to be served cold. That was a good question.
And this current recipe, would that be good cold out of the fridge?
The recipe we're doing right now?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, definitely. And I love presentation, so I'm gonna swap it out. For a pretty, I love my yellow bowl. I love the inside of it because it kind of just adds another burst of color alongside the red and the green and the white. But these 2 sides, I think, are just unique, but they're also pretty, kind of safe, if you will, for a cookout if you're bringing it somewhere. But yes, a great addition to your summer barbecue and fun ways of trying new spins on these fruits and vegetables that maybe you've had in other ways, but not like this before. So we've got about 5 minutes left. So, I mean, are there any other questions?
And you were sauteing the squash and zucchini. Would you say that you should do those to a la dente?
Yes.
Okay.
So not cooking them all the way through. So about 3 to 4 minutes or so, just until they're that little crisp tender. So al dente, yes, that would be the key word there.
Okay. And how long can you eat as leftovers and still get the good nutrition? What would you say on both of these and leftovers in general?
The watermelon salad is going to get a little gooey. So one thing that you could do is you could leave the feta out until you're about to serve and then just sprinkle it on top of your watermelon so that you're not kind of adding in that cheese that's going to get a little bit of that moisture to it, and then it's going to affect, just the quality maybe of how it looks. Maybe not so much taste department the first day or two. As you're kind of getting into day 3, 4, I would say that's going to start to look a little blah, and you're going to want to get rid of it if you haven't eaten it already. That's why taking things like, if you're going to make the full recipe of either of these, I would say make sure you're taking it somewhere where you think you're going to be serving at least 6 to 7 people. Otherwise, I would half the recipe of the watermelon, or either both of these, you could half the recipe. Yeah. So if you're just thinking it's going to be 3 to 4, depending on what the kids are going to like. These are a little bit more adult-ish recipes. If I'm kind of thinking of my children, maybe they'd pick out the watermelon and like wash it, before they ate it anyway. So
no salt on the salad.
What was that?
No salt on that watermelon salad?
I put a little bit.
You did put a little bit.
Okay. I put just a little sprinkle of salt. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
That sweet and salty and watermelon is something, isn't it?
It is. It's very tasty. And again, if you're not a feta cheese person and you kind of looked at it and thought, I don't know about that feta, but everything else sounded really good, then leave the feta off. I kind of think that's a really good thing for the future. If I make this for a larger group, I would do that. I would definitely do that, because you don't know what other people are going to like. Another side note to the watermelon feta salad, a friend of mine who I spoke with yesterday, we were talking about a specific recipe, and she mentioned that her family likes to put pistachios on there, and that it's a really nice, fun twist. And I wouldn't have thought of that. So that's another yummy twist that you could try to add to see if you like that extra crunch on there.
That's good, and it would give you a little more protein as well.
Protein, healthy fat, some extra fiber, a lot of good stuff coming from those pistachios. So
if you were to use a scoop of Greek yogurt instead of protein powder, how would those two compare as far as protein?
It depends on the protein powder. So about a cup of Greek yogurt is probably about 15 grams of protein, give or take. It's about 5 ounces of yogurt, which is about a container, is about 140 calories, 15 grams of protein. A scoop of protein powder is about 150 calories, and you can get anywhere from 25 to 30 grams of protein. I think it just depends on how much protein you need. I think most of us who aren't doing any type of weightlifting, but are just trying to get some good old protein just to meet daily needs, you would be just fine with a smoothie that has 15 grams plus protein in there. So 15 grams from the yogurt, and then maybe you get a little bit from if you use a splash of almond milk or something like that. But yeah, I think it just kind of depends on what your lifestyle habits are and what your goals are, what your protein needs are. A lot of that could be discussed with a dietitian personally to kind of help you feel that out. but both are great options. You do not have to use protein powder if you don't feel that's something that, you want to purchase or use, or you don't like the way that it tastes. So Greek yogurt is a great swap. That's a good question.
And we are getting quite a few questions on smoothies, so
Yes.
that's going to be a great session for everyone to attend.
I would love, Carol,
are
if
there
you
certain fruits that don't blend well for smoothies?
Good questions. Well, I guess it just depends on what you're using for your smoothies. If you don't have a high-powered blender, then things with skins left on them could be a little tricky. So blueberries can kind of get leftover skins on them. If you don't take the peel off of, a lot of people take the peel off of peach. Some people don't. I think that is just a personal preference. I do, but I have family members that eat a peach whole, and that is their thing. So I think it just depends on your blender and what it's capable of. But yeah, I would say anything with a tough, coarse skin, raspberries, strawberries, those types of things, obviously bananas, those things blend really well, mango, peach without the skin. So I would say remove skins if there is a skin, and that can help kind of make sure that's processing a little bit easier. I do know that sometimes when I use protein powder, it can clump, and so I have to actually get in, and I have a Ninja. I could really up my my smoothie game, but I'd make do. There's other things that I'd rather spend my money on right now. And so what I do is take that little time to kind of take it out and swirl, mix it for a second, and then blend it back up again. So that's another option. So yeah.
Okay. Well, that is all of our time today. Katie, great presentation. Just eating the rainbow is a good way for all of us to improve our health, that's for sure. So thank you for giving us some good creative ways to do so. And we will look forward to seeing all of you attendees at our next Lunch and Learn in August.
Yes, looking forward to it. So yeah, more smoothie talk to come for sure.
Okay, thank you.
All right, bye.